In this video, we'll take a look at how one goes about adding and changing a solid color on a basic material. Your primary controls for doing that will be the color swatches that you'll find down on the left-hand side of the basic parameter section in the material settings. Specifically, when adjusting the main body color, you'll be working with the top two color swatches. Their names are ambient and diffuse. When creating a solid colored surface, of the two color swatches, I personally always start by adjusting the diffuse. The reason being is it's the diffuse component of a material that's used to control the main body color of an object in areas that are lit. In other words, in the illuminated areas of a scene. To adjust the color, you simply click on the swatch, which then opens a second box, the Color Selector dialog. It'll be there where you then make the needed adjustments in controlling the color. The controls are divided into two sides, with a series of 6 ramps on the right and a rainbow color chart on the left. Either side can be used to achieve the solid color that you're wanting to create. Let's start on the right-hand side with the ramps. The name of each ramp is listed to the left-hand side of the ramp itself. The top 3 ramps, red, green, and blue, allow you to adjust the mix of each of those 3 primary colors. You'll notice that each ramp has a white handle that can be moved from side to side in order to adjust the amount of that given color. Pulling a handle to the right adds that color into the mix, while moving it to the left removes or reduces that particular color. When a ramp has been changed by moving its slider, that change will reflect both on the color swatch in the lower right-hand corner of the Color Selector dialog and in the selected sample slot in the material editor. The color created can also be adjusted using the numeric fields to the right-hand side of the ramp, or by controlling the up and down spinners just to the right of those numbers. Any ramp can be quickly taken to 0 by simply right-clicking on that particular spinner. Do you also notice that when you change the position of a given slider, the color in the background on all 3 of those top ramps also changes? Now that might be a point of confusion when you're first learning how things work, but it's actually very helpful, that color change, when you realize just exactly what it's doing. Here's how it works. When you're wanting to make a specific color, try to find that color in one of the top 3 ramps. If you're able to find the color that you're aiming to make, you simply move that slider in the direction of that color. See, the reason that the top 3 ramps are continually changing color when you move the sliders back and forth is because Max is interactively showing you the color that's being created when those sliders change position. Having blended those colors differently with each move of the slider, 3ds Max is merely saying if you want that color, all you got to do is move that particular slider on top of that particular area of the ramp. Let's try that with a few different examples so we can get the hang of things. Let's close the color selector, select a new sample sphere, and we'll reopen the diffuse swatch. Looking at the ramps on the right, if you want to make a bluish green, all you have to do is take out the red. Try it. If you want to make more of a pure green, pull out the blue by taking that slider to the left. And if you wanted to make, let's say, orange, well, you just simply max out the red. Making that a little bit deeper could be done by pulling out some of the green. It's actually pretty easy to go right to the color you're wanting to create once you understand how it works. Now, the 4th ramp, Hue, gives you the opportunity of creating a specific color by simply clicking your mouse directly on top of that color in the ramp. I could also easily go to green, purple, or let's say yellow. To do a little more fine-tuning on the color, you could always just grab the slider, nudging it left to right. The 5th ramp on the right-hand side controls your color saturation, which is basically the amount of color in the color. Pulling the slider to the right fully saturates your color, while moving it to the left takes color out, representing basically the absence of color. So the more pastel or muted you want your color to be, the more you'll be taking that slider further to the left. The last ramp down, Value, controls the lightness and darkness of a color. You can see that directly by the light and dark areas in the ramp's background. Taking the control slider to the right would brighten the color, while pulling it to the left would darken whatever color you're creating. The controls on the left-hand side of the dialog give you the opportunity to select your color by clicking in the rainbow chart and moving your mouse onto the color that you're looking to create. You can further change the color using the whiteness and blackness sliders on the opposite sides of the chart. The blackness representing the value of the color, while the whiteness controls the saturation. You'll also find an eyedropper down to the lower left-hand side of the box. Clicking on it and moving your mouse onto anything in the scene and clicking again will grab that color and throw it directly onto the color swatch. The eyedropper can be especially handy when wanting to match a specific color that's already in your scene. If you ever want to take things back to the original color of the color swatch at the time you clicked on it to open up the options, you can simply click on Reset. Okay, let's see if we can't settle in on a light blue color. We'll add our blue and take out some red. If we wanted to make that a little richer, we could then add some saturation. When you're happy with your color, let's go ahead and accept the changes, clicking on OK. Now, where the diffuse color swatch controls the color of an object in the areas that are lit, the ambient swatch controls the color of an object, but in the areas that are unlit. The non-illuminated areas of the surface, in other words. So because of that, the ambient color is typically a darker version of the diffuse. Let's start by first unlocking the ambient and diffuse controls. You'll see that button directly to the left of the color swatches. Once unlocked, we can now simply open the ambient swatch and adjust the value to darken that color up a bit. So that's typically how you do things. The ambient color value on a material is usually set to be just a darker version of the diffuse. Diffuse representing the areas on a surface that are lit. The ambient representing that same surface, but in areas that are unlit, not hit by light, in other words. So that's pretty much what you need to know about controlling a material's main body color. Take a little time to practice the various options, then choose the color changing techniques that work best for you.